Culture can be described as a way for us to express ourselves and our world by defining it in detail. It's how we non-verbally communicate our personalities, our traditions, and our way of being to one another. Now, most of those in the audience who know me can agree that I am one of the most hyperactive people they have ever met. I mean, my friends literally refer to me as the overexcited Brazilian. But it's truly amusing that I have this abundance of energy, this excitement, because at the end of the day, it's this very same energy that fueled my journey of connectedness. I am Brazilian, yes, and I have these Latin traits within me, such as being loud and passionate, but I'm also a global citizen. I spent more than half of my life outside of Brazil. I have an American accent, and I've shared houses with people whose passport did not match my own. But it was never their nationality that mattered. I grew up in a backpack, with my parents taking me around the world for the sole purpose of exposing me to different cultures, to different knowledge, specifically so I could grow up to be the type of person aware that life wasn't about my own bubble. It was this cumulative ambition, if you will, from the way I was brought up to the values that I developed that drove me to connect with people and understand how they express themselves. And now I wanted to blossom from my bud. Now, cultural consciousness can be described as developing awareness and an understanding of your own culture, of other people's cultures, and how those two connect together. Now, this is really fascinating to me for two reasons. Number one, because maybe it holds a clue into how I can connect with more people. And number two is because it gets me thinking how many people haven't really thought about or ever even come across this term before. Think about how much more we could do, and I'm speaking from the perspective of an expat, how much more we could accomplish if we actually understood each other when being somewhere that isn't our home. We are a part of a global community, and that's exactly why we need to connect, why we need a root. Because being a part of a global community makes everything so transient. It destabilizes the rhythm of certainty because everything can come and go at any moment. However, like a tree, if our branches are rooted to the earth, if we expats have this connection with the locals, then think about how much more we could actually do. Now, I began this year figuring out ways how I could break this invisible wall, this barrier that rises because of our immediate sense of unfamiliarity to something different. A wall that impedes many from going any further. And I wanted Green School to be the ones to jump over this obstacle. However, I'm going to be honest with you. This is where I messed up. And let me first tell you why. When I first found out about cultural consciousness, I immediately began brainstorming ways in how we, as a community, could immerse ourselves in our globality. And whilst here in Bali, be the ones to cross that invisible divide from expat to local and local to expat. See, the first thing I thought of was the Kuko Connection, a program created by Tim Fijal to teach local Balinese students who weren't enrolled at Green School English and give them the space and skill required to connect their local culture, their local wisdom to ours through language. And I was like, Kuko Connection, boom, I have the perfect group of people I can involve together with the students in high school, and now I just need a plan. Well, the ASA program here at Green School had been greatly devastated by the 2020 pandemic, and since had been dormant. So I helped give it the razzle-dazzle and kickstart the thing up together with the Green School higher-ups. I thought that if I created a space for Green School and Kakache to connect, then maybe we could get some connections going and touch that third part that I define cultural consciousness as, connecting one's culture to another. Now, some of you might be wondering why I consider this a mess up, why this was a mistake. Well, after I talked to the Green School team and incentivized to get this going, and we finally had ASA start up, I couldn't see Kakache students showing up. Maybe I should have stopped to consider that whilst I was complaining that I hadn't had extracurricular since 2020, local Balinese hadn't physically gone to school in over 2 years. I was doing something that was important to me, but without being conscious of another person's group's needs. And I was reminded in that moment of a TED Talk I'd seen before, done by Ernesto Cirolli, an Italian man who supports the creation and growth of entrepreneurs around the world. And he said the most important thing when doing anything with someone is to respond to their passion. You find out what it is that they need and they want. I had gone ahead with this project of mine and bestowed this wonderful opportunity for Green School and Kakache to connect. But was that what they had even wanted? You see, Tim Fijal went out to the communities, he went out to the local banjars here in Sibangkaja, and he asked, what is it that you want? And the parents of the local children said, we want our kids to learn English. He started it with the Balinese and not with him. Because when you want to help someone, you give them what they want and not what you want to give them. So, what did I do? Well, fear not, I did some of Green School's favorite words. I bent like bamboo and I adapted, I pivoted, if you will. I learned from my mistakes. I had come to the shameful realization that I had gone ahead and done all of this stuff without ever addressing my own cultural consciousness. I put on my shoes, did a little dance, and went out to connect myself because the realization I'd also made was that that was what I originally wanted. That connection, that community, that grounding. So I started going every Wednesday and Thursday with one of my best friends who is coincidentally a Kakache alumni, Ayu. To Subak Umalaming, which I'll call Sul for short. Because I wanted to experience a fragment of what some of the local people here in the Green School Sibangkaja area did outside of my line of sight. On Wednesdays, I joined Sul in Gotong Royong to immerse myself in a local practice. Gotong Royong meaning communal work or community service. And on Thursdays, I joined Kakache students to do Subak School, a permaculture-esque course meant to bring back the awareness of traditional farming, but with the vitality and intelligence of young minds here in Bali. Anyways, Subak School had this final 5-minute presentation that we had to do, and the Kakache students were doing it all in English because that's what Kakache was for. And I decided that for this to truly have meaning, I had to do this, I had to put in the same effort. So I went ahead and did a 5-minute presentation fully in Indonesian about the culture of farming here in Bali. Now, I won't tell you it was perfect. Far from it. In fact, I got help from Ayu translating the whole original script I'd written into formal Bahasa Indonesia. Not normal, formal, which, by the way, is really hard. And then spent hours at home putting each word that I didn't understand, which was like 90% of them, into Google Translate just to find out what it meant. And during the presentation, I was looking down at my script my whole time because I didn't memorize anything. And my friends were all laughing because of my pronunciation. But nonetheless, I'm proud of it. It was something that I did to try and become more aware of their culture, of their language, because that is one of the biggest barriers that we have. Now, coming back to one of the first things that I talked about, imagine all the possibilities waiting for us if we actually put in the effort to connect. I am not an expert, and I don't want to sound like a know-it-all, but I want you to trust me when I tell you that the experiences I've had, which range from watching cockfights next to school to jumping in buck naked into the subak with local kids, I want you to trust me that the little I have to share could possibly change your behavior. So here are a couple steps I think anyone can take to become more culturally conscious. When someone speaks to you in your home language, there is an immediate sense of familiarity. That is the biggest step, but also one that you repeatedly take because the better you get at speaking someone's language, the easier it is to connect. So go out there, learn Indonesian. It's okay to start with your please and thank yous, but go beyond. Learn Indonesian until you can hold an actual conversation, a real conversation with someone. Make a friend. Go to a ceremony, a real ceremony. The ones they hold here in Bali for tourists are beautiful and they're a wonderful experience to have. But have you ever been to a ceremony not explicitly meant for expats? Take the friend you made and go to a wedding with them. It's wonderful. Visit their village, visit their home. See how a Balinese family actually lives. Go to Gotong Royong, it's with Aston Karaway, it's right across the river from here, and it will change the way that you see community. There are so many ways in which you can go about this, and it's different depending on where you are, but they're all ways in which you can become more culturally conscious. I've been trying my best to become that culturally conscious person that I strive to be, and I'm up here to ask you, where are you on the spectrum? Sorry, this spectrum. Together with my friends, I have made the bleometer for you to measure your bliness at your convenience. You can be newly arrived in Bali, learning your first words in Indonesian, or you can be Jangkok di Minimart Nasgor veteran, right? Or you can be someone that hasn't really taken their first steps and is completely bamboozled by half of the words on here. But if that's the case, that's okay. I'm up here to ask you, how culturally conscious are you now? Where do you find yourself in this present moment? I ask to, wherever that might be, for you to stop and take note of it. Take note and think about how you can move forward. Being culturally conscious is about being receptive and aware of the unique characteristics of a person or people. For example, from the year 2015 to 2019, I lived in the student village, a bamboo community of families living across the river from here, aptly named because of the boarding program that ran there up until we left. And during this time, I met and became family with some of the people that I hold dearest to my heart till this very day. And it's hard not to shed a little tear, but also smile when I think of them. Wild teenagers that taught me everything that I need to know about what I should, but especially shouldn't do. Like, you would see little 12-year-old me being like, damn, so dodgy cliff jumping is a bad idea? Guess I can't drive a motorbike to Kuta, huh? Or at least get caught. But the point is that I'd been practicing cultural consciousness long before I knew what it even was. And the crazy thing is that you have too. Look around the room right now. Actually, look, go ahead. You'll see friendly faces from a multitude of nationalities because we are in an international environment. We are all receptive. We are all aware. But I want you to take this skill that you own, that you have honed, and aim it at where you are. We are living in Bali. I hope that we can all learn to respect it. And that wherever you may go in the future, remember that they deserve your respect too. My dream is that one day you can feel the same kindness you have given, the same love you have given, and understand why I'm standing here in front of you sharing my story. And that you take this knowledge as a budding flower. I hope, I hope that one day you too can watch it bloom. Thank you.